Okay, I'm Tara-Nicholle Nelson, and I'm the VP of Digital and Content at the Sutherland Gold Group in San Francisco. I also speak and write on the art and science of transformation at rethinkthenumber7.com. I have just a couple moments of your time. I'm very grateful that you're spending them with me, so I am declaring my intention to make them count. All right, I want to share with you some insights and thoughts that I've had over the years on how to get consumers addicted to your content. Let's talk about the word addiction, though, really briefly, because for me, it evokes a very striking mental image, and it's not always a good mental image, right? Addiction, when we talk about addiction, we're usually talking about a physical or a psychological dependence on a substance or an activity, sometimes even a person or an object. And usually there are negative connotations to addiction, like addictions to drugs and alcohol. It's fortunate for us that in the circle of people who tend to be at an event like this, the more popular, the more common addictions tend to be to things like coffee, or words with friends, or Pinterest, if you know the kind of people that I know. Now, it might seem a little strange, but I actually believe that there is such a thing as a negative addiction to content, right? I have sites where it's like no matter what I try, I cannot stop going to these sites, but I hate that I do that. Like, I feel like I'm losing brain cells the whole time I'm there. I feel like the content's so mindless and useless that I'd be embarrassed to tell a friend of mine that I visit that site, right? And so from a content publisher's perspective, from the site's perspective, you might think, hey, like, that's kind of a high-class problem to have. Even compulsive visits are still visits. But unless your business model runs entirely on just visits, unless you're in a position where you'll never want a consumer to do anything else, I'm going to argue to you that trying to cultivate that kind of negative, time-wasting content addiction is it's not a sustainable model for marketing something else. Okay. On the other hand, there's a much better, a good flavor of addictive content. This is the kind of content that's still habitual. You still crave to read it, to watch it, to listen to it, to engage with it. But it's also content that eventually will get you to do something else. It will get you to forward the content to a friend, or to keep coming back to it, or to rave about it, or even to buy something. And there's a synonym for the relationship between a consumer and that good flavor, the positive kind of addictive content. That synonym is love. So I'm going to submit to you today that our goal as content marketers should be to court consumers, to get them to fall in love with our content. It is one of the quickest and easiest ways that you can position your brand to be a love mark. Now, this is not a new concept, love mark. If you're a marketer and you don't own this book, it was written by Kevin Roberts from Saatchi & Saatchi, you should own this book. I think it's increasingly relevant, even though it's a classic. But a love mark is it's a brand to which its customers are loyal beyond reason. It's really, these are brands that rank sky high on axes of love and respect and trust amongst their consumers when they're surveyed. These are brands whose users have a relationship with the brand that transcends all utility of the product or the service that the brand actually provides. These are the Apples and the Starbucks and the Toyotas of our world. And in the world of content, there's a specific name for this love mark relationship, this loyalty beyond all reason, and it's called stick. See, most people, think about whether this applies to yourself. Most people have what we call a core mix of websites that they visit habitually on a daily basis, all day, every day. They get up in the morning, they check them all throughout the day. For a new content brand or channel to break into that core mix, it has to go through a three-step process in the hearts and minds of its target users. First, it has to reach them on the core mix of sites that they're already at. Then it has to entice the consumer to try it out. That's what we call trial. And finally, it gets to a place where it sticks. And stickiness is that elusive love mark relationship when it comes to content, where your content channel becomes a part of their core mix of sites. So we're not here today to talk about reach or trial, although those are very worthy topics in their own right. What we're here to talk about today is how to generate that stickiness. So I'm going to walk you quickly through 3 strategies that I think are required in today's super noisy content landscape to get consumers to fall in love with your content, to generate this stickiness, and to become a love mark in the good way. The first is this: don't just publish information, fuel their aspirations. In America in 2012, I say it's a very valid generalization that people crave change. They crave transformation. They want to be smarter, wiser, more frugal, invest their money better, cleaner living in terms of their footprint on the planet. They want to live with more passion, eat better foods. They want to be wiser parents. And generally, people are much more committed to achieving their goals and dreams now than they ever have been before. So these aspirations aren't just driving their life decisions. They are driving consumers' content consumption patterns. People are not looking anymore to sort of filter through and wade through that overwhelming fire hose of information on the internet. This is why we're seeing models become more and more popular, where someone you trust or someone who's already an expert on the subject matter is serving you up or curating the content to you. What people are looking for now is knowledge, and knowledge is a subset of information, right? If this is information, what they want now is knowledge that solves a specific problem that they actually face or makes it smoother for them to achieve their aspirations. So as a result, consumers are much more easily now than ever addicted to content that's generated by apps that allow them to visualize or track their progress toward their aspirations. And real time is amazing, right? So here's an example, Mint.com. Mint.com obviously allows people to visualize their financial habits over time. It also allows them to track their progress toward their goals visually in real time. What's next? Chartbeat. Chartbeat, I'm a little bit obsessed with these days. If you're a blogger and you want to know how a title that you've put on a post is performing, you can be in Chartbeat and watch it literally change the title and see how that changes and impacts your traffic. That's amazing. Massive Health has this eatery app, and people love it. They just keep clicking on it because it provides these beautiful visualizations of how well they've eaten over the week and week to week. People just can't help but keep clicking and keep coming back to that. Now, if you're not creating an app or you don't have real-time capabilities in your world, you can still create content that gets consumers hooked because it furthers their aspirations. Now, I still do a project with Trulia.com, which is a real estate search engine. They have a very active discussion community, let's say. And what we were seeing is that people had the concern, one of the big problems they were trying to solve for was buying or selling a house in a very tumultuous market without flipping entirely out. So we put this blog up, we post to it 1 time a week. You can see here that we've had over 3 million views on this blog in a little under 2 years. And it's very common. It drives engagement, it drives return visits. It's not uncommon to have maybe 30 or 40,000 views the first week that a post goes up, and 100 to 200 comments is pretty normal on this blog. So let's go to number 2. Number 2 is market your manifesto. Now, publishing an authentic, honest, culture or lifestyle manifesto does a few things for you. First, it helps consumers self-select into or out of the lifestyle that your brand is offering or proposing. It's like broadcasting a selective magnet out in the world that sort of attracts in the people that are already buying what you're selling from like a lifestyle and values perspective. And it brings those people into your orbit, and those people are already very amenable to becoming addicted to your content. From a PR and marketing perspective, manifestos also broaden the subject matter that your brand can be an authoritative resource on. So I'm gonna give you a little example, tongue-in-cheek here, people. This is my personal manifesto, okay? I'm a digital strategist and I talk about transformation, but here we're gonna go to lifestyle and values. Number 1, I am not a diva, but I do possess diva tendencies. Number 2, I don't drink alcohol because I like to chew my calories. And here we're gonna get really, really personal, okay? This is my personal philosophy on kissing. I don't kiss people, I only kiss dogs. These are the dogs that I like to kiss all the time. So through your manifesto, you can create addictive content and engage your users on subject matter that's much bigger than your vertical, it's much bigger than your product. I don't know if you've seen the legions of women in your town carrying these bags around as their lunch pails. Yes, no, yes, no. If you have, you've encountered the Lululemon manifesto. Now, who here knows what Lululemon does and doesn't do? Okay, so briefly, Lululemon, this is the hedgehog concept from Jim Collins' book, Good to Great. I don't know if y'all are familiar with it, but the hedgehog concept showed that many great companies are very clear on these 3 circles. Well, what Lululemon does best in that one circle is black yoga pants. Black yoga pants. That's what they do better than anyone else in the world. So from that perspective, it's very, very interesting that the manifesto they have on every single product, on every single bag that drives their entire content strategy is a rallying cry for a way of life that has very little to do with yoga, very little to do with exercise, right? It's mostly about living on the coast and goal setting and relationships and life and success. Good manifestos take on topics bigger than their brand and bigger than their vertical, and they also can take on a life of their own. I don't know if any of you have seen this. It's called the Holstee Manifesto, Holstee. Holstee is an e-commerce site that sells like clothes and wallets and yoga mats and just cool stuff. But this was their personal internal manifesto, and they published it, and some bloggers picked it up, and customers started asking for it on posters. And last year they sold 11,000 of them. This accounted for 50% of that company's revenue last year. Secret deodorant has a manifesto and a platform, not about not smelling bad, but about anti-bullying, right? It's called Mean Stinks. So Secret put this Facebook campaign up. They increased their Facebook engagement by a factor of 24. In one day, they got 203,000 new Facebook fans. And in a week's time, 75,000 kids posted on this wall apologies to other kids that they had bullied. Manifestos engage your consumer groups around values, and they get people addicted to your content. And here's our last one. Double down on content experiences. There are limitless numbers of ways that you can create what I like to call experiential content. Now, one of the most powerful ways to do this is by actually creating live, in real life events that are 100% unique and create them from the beginning with very deep content and social media integrations, both before and after the events. Now, our friend Lululemon does this very well, again, with a series of local and nationwide events that allow people to practice yoga in huge groups in places they would never be able to do it otherwise, right? From the National Ballet of Canada to the Royal Victoria Museum. They do a Salutation Nation Day where yogis all over the world practice outdoors at the same exact time. And then they have several content plays on this. Up front, they generally create a microsite. And there's lots of user-generated content that gets posted to Facebook as people sort of churn up their excitement in advance of this once-in-a-lifetime event that they're about to go through. And then afterwards, during the event, they capture all sorts of video and images and post them on all channels. Some less expensive ways to create experiential content are to, if you have a consumer good that you sell, to incorporate UGC calls to action in your tangible product. And what we're seeing is with some of the subscription services that you're starting to see, Trunk Club is a subscription service for men's clothing, Kiwi Crate is a subscription service for children's educational products. We start to see when the box comes in the mail, people, consumers, users are starting to post their own content to Facebook. Another subscription service that my agency works with is Birchbox Cosmetics. Now, Birchbox has elevated to an art the idea of creating a content experience around the arrival of the box in the mail. They actually post videos to YouTube, going through the box and getting people excited about what's in the box for this month and demoing it. They also create online experiences out of the real life events that people are already excited about. If there is a red carpet going on at an awards show, Birchbox is tweeting about it at #BBRedCarpet. I don't have much more time. I just want to leave you with the idea that you can express your own love for your consumers and helping them achieve their passions through compelling consumer content. Thank you very much.